The finish line is in sight. There's only 2 rounds to go. Let's look at who was hot and who was cold in round 22. At this time of the year, especially this year, a lot of our fortunes in KFC SuperCoach come down to who we have to cover players who are out injured. Nearly everybody lost Nick Dacos last week. We didn't have trades to replace him. Other players going down. So who can you bring on from the bench? And anyone who had George Hewitt from Carlton, who snapped him up a few weeks ago when he was only 280 grand, had absolutely paid off a million times over on Saturday night. Fantastic game, one of the games of the year against the Demons. And George Hewitt was absolutely huge. One of the players of KFC SuperCoach last season. We haven't seen that really at all this year. He's been the sub. He's been in and out of the team. That's why he was so cheap. But this is what we know he can do. 33 disposals, 23 of them contested, which is absolutely massive. 6 tackles and 8 clearances for 142 KFC SuperCoach points. So when some people are playing a real cheapo bench rookie, a Campbell Chesser or someone like that, Matt Roberts off the bench and getting 30 or 40 points, and you've got 142 from George Hewitt, that gives you a massive advantage. The hottest player of the week was Jai Newcomb at the Hawks. He's turned into a real primo midfielder. We picked him up a couple of years ago as a mid-season draftee, and he was a nice KFC SuperCoach pick for us. Now he's in hardly any teams, but maybe we should be rethinking that because he was huge again against the Bulldogs down in Tassie. 40 disposals. They didn't really put any attention into him. That seems to happen every week, so he can just run around and get as many kicks as he likes. 12 marks and a goal along with that as well. 174 KFC SuperCoach points in a great win by the Hawks. And throwing one in here that maybe is just a little one to put a pin in for next season. Alex Witherden scored 133 KFC SuperCoach points for the Eagles in the Derby on Saturday night. Now, not many people would have picked him this year, but maybe just wanted to pencil into our notebooks for the watch list for 2024 because we know Shannon Hearn is going to retire. He's been an absolute servant for the Eagles for so long, but who is going to pick up all the kicks in the defence with him gone? And it could well be Witherden. He had 20 kicks and just 4 handballs on the weekend at 96% efficiency. So these are the kind of numbers we love in defence in KFC SuperCoach. He took 8 kick-ins as well and played on from 6 of them. So he's 507 grand. So we don't want him to score too many points in the last couple of rounds. We don't want him to get too expensive, but he could be a nice sneaky pick for us in defence next year. Who was cold this week? Well, KFC SuperCoach can be a brutal game sometimes, and my heart goes out to people who traded in Tom Liberatore to replace Nick Dacos. He seemed to tick all the boxes. He's been in absolutely fantastic form. Then down in Tassie, he cops the Finn McGuinness tag for the first quarter. He was just starting to find a way to work through that, and then he got knocked out. It looked really horrible. Down for quite a while. They took him straight off, subbed him straight out, and so that resulted in a really low score on the weekend, 22, which was like under 100 below his projected score. So that's an absolute killer in head-to-head finals. And then to add insult to injury, Tom is going to sit out next week against the Eagles of all teams, where we thought he'd go all right. And we'll have to find some kind of cover for him that week, unless you've got a trade, which most of us don't. Whether to trade or hold a player when they're out for 1 or 2 weeks with an injury is always a really tricky call. This week, players who held Tom Green during his absence were rewarded. He's come back and scored some really great numbers. But it's gone the other way with someone like Josh Dunkley, who returned from his injury, scored a couple of big hundreds, and we thought, this is the Josh Dunkley we love. Geez, you would have been an idiot to trade him out. But now the last 2 weeks, he's really gone very, very low compared to what we know he can do. Just the 77 and 62 KFC SuperCoach points in the last 2 rounds. He only had 16 disposals on the weekend against the Crows. Only 4 of those were kicks. So, yeah, he's not going to put up big numbers doing that. 7 tackles, which we know he's good at, but 3 free kicks against didn't help him either. So we need better scores than that from Josh Dunkley in the last 2 rounds. And talk about chocolates to boiled lollies. James Bourlays on debut for the Crows last week looked fantastic. Scored 112 KFC SuperCoach points, and about 5,000 coaches traded him in this week on the back of that. Then on the weekend, he couldn't go anywhere near that. Had just the 2 kicks and was subbed out in the third quarter with 7 KFC SuperCoach points to his name. So hopefully no one actually had him on the field and had to cop that score in your tally.